Good evening and welcome to Global Insights. Tonight we delve into a story that's not just about international tensions, but about a fundamental misunderstanding at the heart of two nations' legal souls. As relations between the United States and South Africa simmer under President Donald Trump's administration, many point to geopolitics, BRICS alliances, China, Russia, or South Africa's neutral stance. But what if the real friction isn't political, but constitutional? Stay with us as we unpack why America isn't angry at South Africa. It's simply confused by our transformative constitution. This is a tale of two justice systems, and it might change how you see global diplomacy. First, let's set the stage. South Africa's post-apartheid constitution isn't just a document, it's a blueprint for transformation. Born from the ashes of colonialism and apartheid, it demands that the law actively dismantle structural inequalities. As legal scholar Karl Klaar described in 1998, this transformative constitutionalism turns courts into agents of change, not neutral referees. They must advance dignity, equality, and real freedom, enforcing socio-economic rights like housing and education. Sandra Liebenberg, in her work 2010, echoes this. Courts balance separation of powers, but reject government inaction on these fronts. Now, contrast that with the United States. The dominant voice from the U.S. Supreme Court champions a liberal formal approach. Rights are mostly negative, protections from government overreach, not mandates for positive action. Property is nearly sacred, redistribution is viewed with suspicion, and courts are there to restrain the state, not to orchestrate social repair. Take housing rights, for example. In South Africa's landmark case, Government of the Republic of South Africa versus Grootboom in 2000, the Constitutional Court ruled that the state has a positive duty to provide reasonable access to housing, especially for the vulnerable. No overnight miracles, but no empty promises either. Rights must be enforceable. Flip to the U.S. In San Antonio Independent School District versus Rodriguez in 1973, the Supreme Court refused to recognize education as a fundamental right and left funding disparities to politicians, not judges. As Cass Sunstein noted in his 2001 analysis, South Africa constitutionalized obligations where America treats them as political hot potatoes. What Washington calls judicial activism, Pretoria sees as everyday constitutional duty. But is this divide most stark on land reform? Absolutely, and it's where misunderstandings ignite. Stick around, we'll explore how property views clash and why it matters for global relations. On land, South Africa's constitution treats property as a social tool, not an absolute right. In First National Bank versus Commissioner of SARS in 2002, the court balanced protection with public interest and historical redress. Expropriation for land reform, it must be lawful, proportionate, and compensation contextual, not always market value. In the U.S., it's different. Cedar Point Nursery versus Hasid in 2021 saw even temporary access to private land as a full taking, requiring compensation. Property is pre-political, almost untouchable, so when U.S. figures cry confiscation over South African reforms, they're projecting American norms onto a system designed for equity. And race? The chasm widens. South Africa's Minister of Finance versus Van Heerden in 2004 upheld affirmative action for substantive equality, treating unequals equal just entrenches injustice. But in the U.S., Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard in 2023, race-conscious policies were axed for colorblind formalism. Yet America once got it. The late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg praised South Africa's model, citing Grootboom and calling it a beacon for enforcing socio-economic rights. She embodied a U.S. tradition of substantive equality that's now sidelined in Trump-era rhetoric. Trump didn't invent this gap, he amplifies it. His worldview rejects structural fixes, making South Africa's approach seem alien. U.S. policy views nations through markets and alliances, not court logics, turning South Africa into a proxy for domestic debates on socialism and race. For South Africa, this means standing firm. We're not breaching norms, we're honoring a respected model once celebrated by American icons. Critiques should separate design from delivery. Where do we go? The US must learn that constitutions can demand transformation. South Africa? Turn foreign policy into constitutional translation via diplomats explaining reforms in terms of rule of law, not ideology. In a world of echoes, true understanding bridges divides. America isn't angry, it's mishearing. Let's hope for clearer dialogue ahead. Thank you for watching Global Insights. Join us tomorrow for more on the stories shaping our world. What do you think? Share in the comments below to keep the conversation going.